Top US diplomat Antony Blinken has met with the head of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmud Abbas, in the occupied West Bank. It's part of his Middle East tour to try to de-escalate hostilities and prevent the spread of the Israel-Hamas conflict. And Washington is hopeful that the Palestinian Authority can govern Gaza once this war is over and is pushing for a two-state solution. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, however, has shown no interest in reviving negotiations towards a Palestinian state. He held talks with Mr. Blinken in Tel Aviv yesterday. There, Mr. Blinken emphasised that Israel must stop taking steps that undercut Palestinians' ability to govern themselves effectively. He also called on Tel Aviv to do more to protect civilians in the besieged enclave.
But the daily toll on civilians in Gaza, particularly on children, is far too high. Palestinian civilians must be able to return home as soon as conditions allow. They must not be pressed to leave Gaza.
Crowds gathered in Ramallah earlier today protesting Mr. Blinken's visit. Authorities were seen holding shields and arms as they tried to disperse the crowd. This is the diplomat's fourth trip to the region since the war began. He will be making a surprise visit to Bahrain after wrapping up his West Bank visit. Bahrain last month joined a multinational naval coalition set up by the United States to protect the vital Red Sea shipping route against attacks by Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis rebels. Just today, the British and American Navy said that they repelled the largest attack by the rebels to date. 18 one-way attack drones were reportedly fired by the Houthis, as well as 2 anti-ship cruise missiles and 1 anti-ship ballistic missile. For more on this story, Trent Murray joins us. He's live for us from Tel Aviv. Trent, Mr. Blinken is almost at the end of this Middle East tour, his fourth to the region. What's he achieved from these talks, though?
Well, I think if he was hoping to achieve any sort of cessation to the hostilities, he will likely be a little bit disappointed. Not that we were, of course, expecting that. I think Secretary Blinken knew that the real purpose of this trip was to hold discussions with some of the real regional heavyweights here, including Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, Qatar and the UAE. He has done that, and he's certainly bringing a message from those Arab countries to Israel that there is a real push in this region to bring this war to an end and to try and alleviate the suffering of the 2.3 million people living within Gaza right now. We know it is an escalating humanitarian crisis. The UN has said the Gaza Strip now is practically uninhabitable, which is why I think you heard Secretary Blinken at that press conference overnight here in Tel Aviv signal that while Washington does still continue what he said is Israel's right to defend itself, he is calling on them to indicate when they're going to move away from the high-intensity warfare that we're seeing to something more targeted, because the casualties do just continue to climb. The Hamas-run health ministry is saying in the last hour that the number of people killed has now climbed over 23,000. That meeting in Ramallah also very critical, as you say, because President Abbas leads the Palestinian Authority, and there is hope from the Americans' part that the PA could play a greater role in trying to help rebuild and govern Gaza. It is a difficult one for the Israelis, but they have signalled they're at least open to having that discussion. But they say a red line for them is absolutely having zero involvement in Hamas moving forward in the governance of the Gaza Strip, given what happened on October 7th.
Trent, the situation in the Red Sea shipping route also in focus. Tensions there ratcheting up. Once again, we've got the UK and the US repelling what we see to be the largest attack yet by the Houthi rebels. Just how much of a concern is this development?
Well, it's a major concern from a security perspective, but also from a global trade perspective. I think what is so interesting and almost extraordinary about this is that the US has moved a huge naval task force into the Red Sea, led by an aircraft carrier. It's also got the likes of the UK, Spain and others there with their own warships. And despite that enormous show of force, well, the Houthis are stepping up their attacks. Now, we know that that attack overnight, reported by the Americans, as you said, was the largest one that they have launched to date since tensions in that region really began on November 19th when we saw the first attack. I think the critical thing in all of this is that this attack has come just a couple of days after Washington and London warned the Houthis that there would be consequences if they kept doing this. And well, it seems they've taken that warning and have just effectively ignored it. In terms of the trade disruption, it's having a major impact. We've seen today some new data showing the number of container ships right now in the southern part of the Red Sea transiting towards the Suez Canal. Well, it's down 90% compared to this time last year. Most of those ships are now travelling around the Cape of Good Hope, around the entire continent of Africa. It's adding about 11 days to their journey and also certainly hitting bottom lines. There is an expectation that we could start to see some disruption to the delivery of goods from some of the world's biggest retailers and even an increase in prices, Dawn.
The challenges there just mounting. Trent, thank you very much for that update. Trent Murray there live for us from Tel Aviv.